Hello everyone, I'm Katra. If you haven't watched my previous video, where I talk about everything I hate about Genshin, I'd recommend watching that one first, since I give a bit more context about myself and these videos there. This is the counterpart to that video, where I'll talk about everything I do like about Genshin. While the previous video was more general in nature, in this video I'll try to be more specific. For example, instead of talking about what aspects of the story I like, I'll just talk about my favorite quests in the game. I think it's easier when reviewing something to be more general about the things you don't like and to be more specific with the things you do like, but maybe that's just me thing. Also, spoiler warning, I'll talk about the plot of certain quests, but I'll mention the name of the quest beforehand, in case you don't want to hear about it. Anyway, without further ado, here's everything I like about Genshin Impact as of version 5.8. Here I'm going to list my top 3 favorite quests in the game. Starting with my third favorite quest, Paralogism from version 5.6. This quest deserves to be recognized for being a quest with a decent amount of lore, while also being easy to understand and follow. But it doesn't just stop there, because it does pretty much everything right. The quest hooks you immediately by putting Albedo on trial and changing the tone to be way more serious than your average Genshin quest. Then the plot twist on the second trial, where it turns out the trial is filled with impostors, is awesome and really unexpected, because it's actually pretty rare for Genshin to have a plot twist. What's also great is the fact that all of the planning that was done before the quest, without the involvement of the Traveler. It can sometimes feel like things only happen if the Traveler is there, so this was a very welcome change. And after that, the quest only keeps getting better and better. The battle for the defense of Mondstadt might be one of my favorite moments in the entire game. Seeing all the characters come together to defend the city and playing as them was awesome, and it also gave us plenty of cool character interactions. Finally, the quest ends with the creation of Durin, the culmination of the plotlines coming from Downspine, the Shadows Amid Snowstorms event, and Simbulanka. Having played all three of those, the ending was a very satisfying conclusion, especially with the animation that plays at the end of the quest. The lore drops at the end about Naverius and Rhindaughter felt fantastic too. Also great is that the quest is refreshingly short. You don't need a quest to be 8 hours long to tell a great story. They took a big risk here by changing the formula and turning what would have been a usual Windblume Festival quest into this, but I think it paid off greatly. My second favorite quest is Masquerade of the Guilty from version 4.2. This quest is the conclusion to the Fontaine storyline, and boy oh boy is it a conclusion. All three of my favorite quests have a recurring theme, and it's that they're serious and sometimes even dark. I love this because they stand out a lot compared to the other quests in the game, which are pretty much always really lighthearted. The quest starts, and barely 10 minutes in you already know it's going to be incredible. The float of Poisson and Navia's scene at the graveyard are scenes that carry a lot of emotion and set the tone for the rest of the quests. They are also beautifully written and manage to actually make you sad in a way that doesn't really feel cheap. A lot of games love killing characters that are irrelevant, to say something, just to force a tear out of the player, but most of them fail because they do not understand the player's emotions. Here, it's handled perfectly, because even though most players won't care too much about the NPCs that died, Navia does care about them, and most players care about Navia since she's one of the first characters who was willing to help us in Fontaine, and she's always really nice to us. Speaking of caring about Navia, the next section is also fantastic. We get to see the Traveler actually display some sort of emotion and personality when they jump fearlessly into the water to try and save Navia. Then the quest again does something that sets it apart from other quests in the game, by actually making NPCs have writing on par with the playable characters. Even in death, Melus and Silver try to protect Navia and display unwavering loyalty in a fantastic scene that displays the thoughts and emotions of all the Fontainians that have been turned into Oceanids. We get a bit of lore about Fontaine, and when we return to the city we find Mona there. I already mentioned this before, but it's great when it feels like the characters are actually doing stuff and living their lives without the Traveler being there. And we also get some awesome information about Mona's master and herself. There's so many things happening in this quest, it barely has any downtime. We see the conversation between Nubilette and Furina, which is automatically great because Furina carries any scene she's in. And then we get the incredible scene where almost all of the playable characters in Fontaine come together to devise a plan to put Furina on trial. It's these moments where characters come together where Genshin is at its best, just like the trial in Paralogism I mentioned before. To end this string of great scenes is the dialogue with Nicole, which is pretty cryptic, but the fact that a member of the Hexing Circle makes an appearance is already fantastic. Finally, we get a bit of downtime, which is honestly extremely necessary considering what comes after. I've seen many people complain about quote-unquote low points in quests and or questlines, and I don't think they understand how writing works. Writing a quest is like a roller coaster. You need to go down to then go up and vice versa. This moment of reprieve between Nicole's conversations and then finding Furina at Poisson is essential for the quest and makes the rest of it so much better. In fact, I'd go as far as to say part of what makes version 4.2 so good is that version 4.1 is so bad. Anyway, the quest picks up again when you find Furina crying in Poisson, and from here until the very end of the quest, there's one single reason that makes this my second favorite quest in the game. Furina herself. If you've watched my previous video, you know I care way more about characters and lore, so this shouldn't come as a surprise. Everything about her is perfect. The way she's written, her backstory, her personality, her design. But one aspect stands out about all, and it's her voice acting. If you haven't played the quest with English voices, then you're missing out. The amount of emotion Amberly Connors managed to put into every single line of dialogue is astounding. It's also incredible how she managed to make Furina and Folklore sound so different. I've got nothing against the other dubs, they're all great in their own way, but the English one in this case goes above and beyond. Yes, the story of the trial is amazing, the cutscenes are awesome, the fight against the whale is great, etc. But in my opinion, they're all completely overshadowed by Furina, even Nubilette, who also has an amazing performance thanks to Ray Chase. I'm going to stop myself from talking more about Furina, because I'll talk more about her when I talk about my 3 favorite characters. Back to the quest. After a generational performance from Furina, we end the quest with a great epilogue, talking to all the characters, and with the usual conversation we have with the Archon, where we get to ask a few questions. Though this time it's not with an Archon, and it's with Nubilette instead. And that's the last thing I'll mention about the quest, the consequences of it. I did not think Hoyoverse would have the guts to make the Hadro Archon lose her powers and then give them to the Dragon Sovereign. If this was any other type of game, I would understand it, but this is a gacha game. Making an Archon, one of the characters that are the best selling in the whole game, lose her powers is incredibly brave coming from Hoyoverse. And I love that they did it, because it made the quest feel so much different, and the implications of it for the whole storyline are huge. I believe this quest did everything right, from lore to characters to music to combat to pacing. So you might be asking now, well, what could surpass this? I'm going to cheat a bit here by mentioning a questline instead of a quest, but my favorite questline in the game is Her Foes Rage Like Grey Waters, also known just as Jet's final questline. Her story actually starts way before that, but I'm only going to mention this last questline or I'm going to be talking forever. While the previous 2 quests I mentioned are incredible quests, this one is entirely something else. Playing this quest for the first time, I felt like I accidentally turned on a different game. The only other time I've felt this way in Genshin is at the end of the Aranara questline, with the secret ending and the choice you have to make there. But that was 5 minutes of a questline that lasts way longer than that. Here, on the other hand, the entirety of Jet's questline is like that. Like, you could put this entire questline into Fallout New Vegas with a few tweaks and no one would be able to guess it came from Genshin. That's how good it is. Okay, I'm going to stop gushing about it, let's instead go through it and see why it's by far the best piece of storytelling Genshin has to offer. First off, the quest is actually not easy to unlock. You need to complete the entirety of Jet's previous quests, plus the world quest in the desert area, then complete the chessboard in the desert, then do the Apocalypse Lost quest, and then finally wait a day. And I absolutely love it. The fact that all of these quests tie together and form a cohesive story is beautiful. And the fact that the game doesn't guide you in any way to the final questline is incredible. Hoyoverse loves holding the player's hand for every single second of gameplay, so whenever they stop doing it, it's very refreshing. Anyway, the questline starts off and immediately sets the tone by having the Traveler get betrayed by the Tanit. And after that, something great happens, where the Traveler, instead of being heroic and dumb and confronting the tribe about it, they decide to play dumb in order to learn more about what's going on. The second quest starts, where you fight the Fatui in order to find Jet, and again you are reminded that this is serious business when one of the Fatui mentions that one of his comrades got turned into confetti. In that same conversation we are reminded that the Fatui are just people like us, even if they are on the opposite side. Anyway, after a bit more chasing we finally find Jet, and she's furious from being betrayed. We fight her to bring her back to her senses, and then we immediately get ambushed by 2 more assassins. We heal up, and then we go back to the village for the final confrontation. And this is the point where the quest goes from great to the greatest of all time. The dialogue between Jet and Babel is incredible, with Jet finally realizing how Babel really is. Her listing all of the sins she has committed in her name, her acceptance that her mother is dead and that she shouldn't have tried to look for a new one to replace her, and finally culminating in what is possibly the best line in the entire game. As Jet tells Paimon to keep her eyes closed and to not dirty her white clothes. What follows is the best combat sequence in the entire game, wiping out the entire Tanit village in what can only be described as a full-on genocide, while Jet keeps delivering the best quotes in the game. Jet Ufaira Hindi, remember this name. It is the owner of this name who destroyed the Tanit. She does not hesitate even once when killing every single one of the people who have been with her for the past few months, be they woman or man, and I'm pretty sure the only reason there's no children is because that would raise the age rating of the game, and Hoyoverse doesn't want that. Finally, we reach the final dialogue between Babel and Jet, and it is here again that Jet proves why she's the best character in the game. By pure coincidence, when I was playing this quest it had only been a couple of months since I watched Revenge of the Sith for the first time. Beware of spoilers, I'm going to talk about the movie. Any of you who have also watched the movie might see the similarities between Anakin Skywalker and Jet, so I was really scared that Jet might follow a similar path, because that's one of the things I dislike about that movie. I felt that the way Anakin fell to the dark side was really dumb. Wiping out that village might have not been the quote-unquote morally correct thing to do, but it wasn't evil at all. So to see Jet simply say, "You're evil and I'm not," was just incredible. Any other game would have had her doubting herself, questioning her morality or being sad at the loss of life. But not here. Jet understands that she did what she had to do and that there's no point in looking deeper into it. What's done is done and she needs to keep moving forward. And she does, but journeying alone into the unknown, only with her trusty robot friend and the promise that she will meet again with the Traveler under the love of her son. What a beautiful quest, and what a perfect conclusion to her storyline. And remember, what I've mentioned here is only the finale of the horror storyline. The rest of it I don't think is quite of the same quality as the ending, but it's not far off, like it makes my top 5 easily, and you need the whole journey for everything to click. Like I said in my previous video, the fact that this whole questline is in voice is criminal. This is easily the best story in the game, and it's about the best character in the game. I can only hope in the future that they will voice it, and that they will make Jet a playable character, because she deserves it more than anyone else. The only thing I've got left to say here is that I don't think I've done a good enough job at expressing how good this questline is. Looking back at the script, I noticed I've made a classic video review blunder of mostly explaining what happens on the quests instead of what makes them great, but oh well, I hope my energy got through to you. So if you haven't played any of these quests yet for some reason, then please play them, especially Jet's quest. Alright, now I'm going to talk about my top 3 favorite characters. Luckily, because I've already talked about 2 of them in the previous section, this one should hopefully be a bit shorter, but let's begin. My third favorite character in the game is Xiao. From the moment his beta gameplay came out, I already knew he was going to be great. One of the coolest character designs in all of gaming are dragoons from Final Fantasy. They are lancers who hunt dragons and they attack them by jumping extremely high into the air and then falling down on them with their lances. Xiao is pretty much just the same, minus the dragon part. To this day, I stand that Xiao's gameplay is the best in the game, and no one else is even remotely close. The satisfaction of every single plunge attack is unmatched. The combination of visual and sound effects is perfect. They've tried to replicate it with Gaming and Baresa, but they don't feel nearly as good to play. Their attacks just don't have that same oomph behind them. But it's not just the gameplay that makes him a great character, his backstory is incredible. But the best part is that he actually has character progression. This will be a common theme in my top 3, I don't really care for stagnant characters that always feel the same and don't change at all. But Xiao does have a very clear progression. When you first meet him, he's the same as he's been since the war. Unable to forgive himself for being the only survival. Suicidal, incapable of making any friendships. But with every single quest we do with him, with every event, with every interaction, he gets closer and closer to forgiving himself. He appreciates life more and more, and he accepts making new friends. He is not the most complex character in the world, but in a game where characters barely change, he is clearly deserving of the top 3 position. My second favorite character in the game, as you might have already guessed, is Furina. I won't talk about the Archon quest again, because I've already done so, but that's okay, because it's not only that quest which makes her an incredible character. In fact, I'd argue that the bigger reason why she's awesome is her story quest. You know how much I like character progression, so the moment I saw the former Hydro Archon, who was always so theatrical and excessive, talking about how she's been eating mac and cheese, I knew she was going to become an even better character with this quest. Throughout the entire story quest, she's incredible, from standing her ground against the Traveler and Paimon, to deciding to help a troop with her problems, to feeling responsibility about her timefall because of the murders that happened while she was the Archon. But the best part is the finale, where she finally manages to accept that even though she has been forced to act for 500 years, she still loves acting, and wants to keep doing it. Also, the song that plays at the end there is very fitting to her character and just amazing in general. But it doesn't stop there. In every event or quest Furina appears, she's so good that she takes center stage every single time, fittingly enough. Chlorine's quest was good, but I don't think it would have been as good if Furina wasn't there. She's the main focus of one of the best Archon quests and has arguably the best story quest in the game. She's well deserving of the number 2 spot here, and I can't wait for her second story quest. Again, you probably know who my favorite character in the game is, having heard the previous section. It feels weird having a non-playable character as my favorite one, but I fully believe Jet is the best character in the game and no one else is even remotely close. I do think the comparison is a bit unfair, because she got way more quests and screen time than many of the playable characters, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles. I don't know why they decided to make her the focus of half of Sumeru's world quests, but hey, we got the best character in the game, so I'm not complaining. I hate repeating myself, but you should know by now that I love characters that keep evolving, and Jet is the best example. She actually goes above and beyond because her dialogue actually changes depending on who you picked as a traveler, which I thought was incredible. Again, playing Jet's quest felt like I was playing a different video game all of a sudden. The moment when she loses her only family left in her father, how she feels after joining the Tanit, her wish to bury her parents on the Oasis, and her peace when she finally realizes that wish. Her entire journey is extremely emotional. She's such a good character that you don't even care that her design is just the Hydra Eremite enemy design. Partly because the design is low-key better than some of the playable characters. And honestly, I love the fact that she doesn't even have a vision, because she's incredibly powerful without one. I really hope we can see her again in the future quests, and I also hope that she can become a playable character one day. I was hoping she would be in Not Cry, but it doesn't look like that's the case, unless they somehow introduce her later into the story. But I'm not going to lose hope. I know there's many people like me who understand she's the best character, and we know Hoyoverse understands it too, considering they added her to the Valentine event 2 years ago. She's the best character in the game and has a closer relationship with the Traveler than many of the playable characters. She deserves it. If I had to choose one aspect of the game to praise, this is the one. And it's because they are so good that they surpass the originals, and by originals, I'm obviously talking about Breath of the Wild. It wasn't the case when the game came out, but over time they've kept getting better and better, and the difference is like night and day. Mondstadt and Liyue are totally fine, but areas like Chenyu Vale, Enkanomiya, and Natlan are exceptional. The areas in Breath of the Wild are good, don't get me wrong, but they can be a bit too basic. You have the water area, the winter area, the desert area. They obviously work fine in the context of the game, but I wanted a bit more complexity, and that's what we got in Genshin. Every single area here feels so different, even the ones in the same region, and it's clear they've done an extensive job of researching the cultures they base the regions on. But this is not just about how the environments look, it's also about how they're designed, and how fun they are to explore. And I'm glad to say, Genshin also excels in those. From the moment I completed the exploration on Dragonspine, I knew Hoyoverse had some amazing level designers working there. It's very clear that they take great care of everything. Chests, oculi, quests, materials, statues and challenges are placed very deliberately to have a great flow exploring the area, and to guide you through it. In Natlan, they also took great efforts to make sure you always have a Saurian placed in any location where you might need one. And every single region not only looks different, but also feels way different to explore. Sumeru's verticality, Inazuma's puzzles, Fontaine's underwater, Natlan's mobility, etc. They understand that burnout is very common here, so they have taken the necessary measures to ensure every new area feels fresh and fun instead of a chore. If there's one thing I'll never get tired of in Genshin, it's exploring. It's very clear the main focus of the game, and they give it more time, love and care than anything else. It's not a masterpiece like Fallout New Vegas, but it's way better than it should be for a gacha game. Especially considering how often they pump out new areas and how big these are. A new player joining the game right now has enough exploration content for over 300 hours, or maybe even more. I've been playing since day one and I still have many areas left to complete, because they're releasing new areas faster than I can complete the older ones. Also, as a QA, I have to mention that it's incredible how little bugs they have on such a huge game. Open world games are notorious for being filled with issues, and we're talking about non-live service games that have a lot more time to test the game. The quality level here, considering the speed that they are being developed at, is definitely worthy of praise. I know I was pretty critical about the endgame in my previous video, but there's one redeeming aspect about it that's pretty important, and it's that the endgame isn't difficult at all. And yes, that's a good thing in my opinion. I've played a couple of gacha games where some endgame content is literally impossible to clear as a free-to-play player, and you lose out on massive rewards for it, and I'm extremely glad that's not the case here. I know influencers love complaining that the endgame isn't hard enough, and I don't care. For the majority of the player base, having the endgame be easier is way better, because it means we are pretty much guaranteed those rewards. It also means that we don't have to spend gems pulling for characters we might not like just to keep up with the endgame content. There's a bigger chance we can get away with playing the characters we like instead of the strongest ones, and also that we don't have to lose as much time resetting to get a perfect run. Still, there's obviously some people who want more difficulty, but I think they've done a pretty good job of solving that issue with Siege and Onslaught. Yes, I am a bit ticked that I can't get a free weapon skin, but it's only a temporary weapon skin. I'm not losing out on gems, and it's not the end of the world. The players who want difficulty get a proper challenge and a decent reward, and the free-to-play players like me don't lose out on anything important. I also don't think that the 3 endgame modes are poorly designed. My main complaint was just about the DPS checks. I actually think they're pretty well balanced and different enough to justify having all 3. Abyss rewards vertical investment, Theater rewards horizontal investment, and Onslaught is a mix of both. They only need to think of something to replace some DPS checks, and I'd say the endgame content would be pretty good. There's plenty of small details and things I like that I can't fit into any single category, so I'm just going to mention them all here. Most of these might seem pretty insignificant, but I think that any moment I can remember enjoying from such a huge game means that it's worth mentioning here. I'll also mention a couple of things that aren't really part of the game itself, like 1. This might be the most important thing about the game, and one people often forget about. It's free! You don't need to spend a single dollar to be able to play the game fully. It's a game with quality on par with AAA games that you can play without spending money. In this day and age where games are now $90, this is pretty huge. 2. The game runs on very low NPCs. This is yet another detail that people love to overlook, but it's very nice that you can play this on a machine that's over 10 years old. For phones, it's obviously a different story, but still, if you compare it to other games, and especially ones released nowadays, you'll quickly see that Genshin's pretty well optimized. 3. I kinda mentioned this before already, but the speed at which they put out content is crazy. Having a new version every 45 days when they usually include new quests, new characters, and sometimes even new areas is unreal. I don't think there's any other live service game that releases content this fast. 4. I'm going to mention a couple of my favorite moments in the game, starting with Kazuha parrying Raiden. It's easily top 3 coolest scenes in the game. For the whole story, we were led to believe visions were an individual thing, so to see him using both visions at once was amazing, and blocking a strike from Raiden whose swordsmanship was supposed to be the best in Inazuma is just a cherry on top. 5. Here's an awesome quest that a lot of people might have missed, but is one of my favorites in the game. The hidden quest in Bimara Village after completing the Aranara questline. I think I've mentioned this before. First, because it's a hidden quest. Second, because it rewards you for actually using your brain. And third, because it's one of the very few meaningful choices in the game. I think going through the pain that is the Aranara questline is worth it just for this one. 6. Easily the best part of Dragonspine exploration was finding the Snow Tomb Star Silver. That's the kind of secret you see in all JRPGs and Souls games, and it was awesome. We have gotten more 4-star weapons from quests, but I don't think we've gotten another one that's just hidden in the overworld, and I kinda wish we got more of this. 7. If there's one event that deserves to be mentioned, then it has to be Summertime Odyssey. This had everything I liked about the game condensed into one event. A huge area to explore that was incredibly well designed, some relevance to the main story, and a focus on the characters instead of the lore. Also, the character choices were incredible. Every event in the game should have Visual and Mona together. Their banter is just hilarious. 8. One zone I didn't mention in the environment section, and that I think deserves some recognition, is the Chasm, specifically the underground area. Easily one of the best areas to explore in the game. Lots of hidden stuff, great quests, and Shichiyong is a fantastic character. The areas that are separated from the main map are all some of the best areas in the game, and the underground Chasm might be my favorite of those. 9. I have to give props to Hoyoverse for making a water level that doesn't suck in a video game. I don't think I've seen this since Super Mario Galaxy. Fontaine's underwater exploration might not be the best thing I've ever seen, but it's somewhat fun, which is actually a huge compliment for a water level, believe it or not. 10. If there's one piece of combat gameplay that I have to mention, then it has to be the one-on-one fights where you get the parry ability. I think they should do more of this. It's really cool to play as a traveler and feel strong. And because you're looking out for enemy attacks to parry them, the fights feel more cinematic, maybe because you're paying more attention to the enemies and the environment. It would have been awesome if something like Raiden's fight was like this, but even the ones we have against basic enemies are already pretty cool. 11. In many story quests, there are domains or areas that are built specifically for that quest and then never used again. They could just reuse other areas, but they take the time and effort to build new ones, and I think that deserves recognition. I kinda wish they would just go back to them though. Skirk's story quest has beautiful areas, and it's a shame to not be able to go back. Alright, that's all my thoughts about this game, both the good and the bad now, if you've watched my previous video. You may have noticed that this video is shorter, but honestly, I'd still say I love this game more than I hate it. It's just in a weird spot right now for me, and I think many people are feeling the same. Where the game isn't at its best, and we're feeling quite a lot of burnout from playing every single day for 5 years. But we can't really quit because of sunk cost fallacy, and because we keep hoping it will get better. I do, however, truly believe that Not Cry will be a turning point for the game. Everything we've seen and heard about it seems like a step in the right direction, and I think they understand that they need something big to happen. Genshin is never going to fail, it's too big to fail, but the competition keeps getting better and better, and Hoyoverse needs to improve to keep up with them. And I fully believe it is possible because the issues that this game has aren't really core issues. It's just small things and details that need to be changed. The core story is good, the core gameplay is good, exploration is great, etc. They just need a few tweaks to turn this from a good game to a great one. But like I said on the previous video, as a community we need to keep filling out the surveys and we need to keep sending feedback so Hoyoverse understands what it is that needs to be changed. But I don't want to end this video in a negative light, so here's one last thing. When I upload this video, Notcry will probably be really close to the release or have already released, so who knows? Maybe right now I'm playing the 6.0 quest and thinking it's the best thing ever. I have a good feeling about it. And with that, I take my leave. See you next time.